Hey everybody, I'm sitting down to edit this, which will be the 100th episode of NEcology. And there's a few reasons why I put this as the 100th episode, and we'll get into that. Three really quick things just to address, including that in the sort of preamble to this video. Number one, just a really heartfelt thank you to, the 700 or so people that actually, subscribe to this channel. I never could have imagined even 100 people subscribing to it when I started doing this. I anticipated this would be something I would do for maybe, a year, just to kind of, out of curiosity, just to kind of see what was going on around me. And it really honestly started as a way to like document what I was seeing, watch back, and then kind of retain some of the knowledge, which is a great skill I encourage everybody to do, both in situ photographs and videos of organisms. Yes, even plants, even though they're sessile, is important for your learning, as well as just generally you got to get out there to learn. The world around you is a classroom, and if you're not actively going out to see what's around you, what grows around you, you're honestly really missing out. So just to first get that out of the way, just thank you. Hopefully, maybe someday, in this year, 2025, we can hit 1,000. December of 2023, we had just hit 100, and then we were at 500 before, December of this year. Actually, back in like fall, we hit 500. So I'm just excited to share this knowledge with you. It means a lot to me that people care a lot. I get comments saying like, "Hey, thank God somebody's finally doing this, in New England." And I guess that brings me to my second point, which is I chose to delay this video because I kind of felt like this channel was getting a little bit one note with orchid heavy content, and I really do love orchids. Orchids are integral to my intro to fascination with this plant. And, just kind of like, I always found them very interesting from an anatomical perspective. A lot of them are quite rare. A lot of them are very fascinating. And I'll just put up a little map right here just to explain kind of the context of why I focus on orchids and why I focus on some of the other taxa that I really focus on. And that's just because the Northeast is, orchids are highly diverse up here. I'll put up another map. Here's, for example, Ericaceae, another plant family I really heavily focus on. Here's Betulaceae, one that I've done a few videos on, but nothing crazy. Just to convey some knowledge for folks, I like to cover things that are, diverse in the region. When you have a high amount of biodiversity, you just tend to have a lot to talk about. So that's kind of almost the context of what I like to focus on. I like to focus on things that have a lot of diversity in the area and things that don't have a lot of diversity in the area. This plant that we're going to talk about today, and here's just kind of the third footnote to this video, I chose to hold off on because I was just pumping out orchid content just constantly. I actually made another orchid video the day I shot this in a completely different part of New England. This plant's really special. This is one of the plants that I would consider like iconic of New England, iconic of the eastern mountainous regions of North America as a whole. This is Isotria medeoloides we're going to talk about in this video. And this is a plant that, unlike the vast majority of like really cool and endangered plants in the region, in the East broadly, this one has actually been, subjected to quite a bit of press, quite a bit of conservation efforts, which I do highlight and kind of go in depth on in this video. This video is not like a showstopper. It's not super crazy. It's kind of short. Which is why I don't feel that bad putting this little preamble before. I would love to actually talk to people who are working in conservation of this plant. I'll put up the little news article. This is a plant that was thought to be extinct. I should say extirpated is the proper word, in Vermont for I think over a century. And just really case in point, just to really hammer home, especially this past year, the fact that we need more people doing this, whether you do it as a hobby, whether you want to do it, publicly like I do, or even if you just want to focus on one specific plant, one specific type of ecosystem. We need more people studying this stuff, specifically just the living world in general, because similar to how and I'll put the little thing for the video, I myself discovered a population of a different species of orchid that was never even known to exist in the county that I found it in until a few years back, and really not known to exist at all in the state until 20 years ago. Yada, yada, yada. I'll wrap this up right now. Just, thank you for, joining the channel and following this information. If some of the content seems kind of samey, New England's not a super biodiverse region, but I do try to cover the taxa that are diverse here, like orchids, because we got like 65 species in the Northeast. And then lastly, I do this to encourage all of you. 10 years ago, I mean, I was into gardening, I was into plants kind of generally, but I wasn't doing what I'm doing now, which is this, I'm actively trying to search out new populations of rare species, expand the ranges, help us understand these things better. Because even as well botanized as this region is, there are still so many mysteries. And I even found out just recently, like, not to go super off topic, but like, some of the plants I've covered multiple times, like Liatris nova anglii, they still don't even know, like, genetically, how is it related to the other species of Liatris, yada, yada, yada. All right, I think that's enough pontification. This is going to be kind of a bland video for number 100, but that's not why I chose to make this number 100. Consider this sort of a restatement of thesis for the channel. Everything that I do is aimed at just promoting the knowledge of these plants. If people don't know about this stuff, they're not going to care. So I'm just doing my very, very, very small part in just promoting the awareness of these rare and special species that we have in our region. And, when I can, I do my best to kind of give you a little bit of contextual information as well. So anyway, without further ado, if you actually listen to this preamble, I really do appreciate you. I have big plans for next year. It's the middle of winter right now as I'm doing this, and I hope you enjoy getting a little bit of information and context on Isotria medeoloides, which has been frequently accused of being the rarest orchid in the East, which I get into it in the video. I might not necessarily agree with, but enjoy. Well, hello, folks. I'm coming to you right now from, we'll just say, an undisclosed location in New Hampshire. Finally, looking at a species that has eluded me for quite a long time, though I have found and talked at length about some of his cousins. This is Isotria medeoloides. This is the so-called Little World Pogonia. Also goes by the moniker Rarest Orchid of the East. We'll get into that. I might disagree with them on that, but nonetheless, a species of innumerable independent conservation efforts, quite cryptic in its occurrences, and let's just get right into it. So earlier, a few episodes back, I would have put out an episode, acid-loving orchids, which we cover a species in the same genus, but it's much more abundant, especially down south, Isotria verticillata, the large world Pogonia. It's smaller, more elusive, more cryptic, and less. I'll put up the distribution map of this thing. This is not a common orchid. All right. It is, and the reason I'm afforded the privilege of being able to even show it to you, the privilege that I have is that it's somewhat common in certain pockets of New Hampshire and in Maine. Okay, and this is an orchid. This is a plant that people actually. It feels weird saying this. This is a plant people actually care about. This is one that you will find news articles about. This gets covered. This was thought to be extirpated from Vermont for a number of years, was subsequently rediscovered, has been extirpated from a number of other locations. And I mean, I'm on, like, I'm guessing this is it is a study site. I can see where they have these things marked. And here's the key to the puzzle. There's a lot of markers down. There's no plants next to the markers. This thing has a remarkable propensity to disappear under the ground for years at a time sometimes. I don't know the exact, I think at 5 to 7 years it can go without reemerging. Probably close to 3 or 4 dozen markers I've seen on this site, which obviously I'm not going to disclose where that is, sorry, as one doesn't do when dealing with plants like this. But you know, I have my ways and my means, and I'm gotten pretty darn good at tracking this stuff down just via the associated flora, but we'll leave it vague. What was I going to say? I mean, I must have passed 3 or 4 dozen of these guys just popping up out of bud. I'll show you what that looks like. And this is the only one I found in flower, and it's not even doing that good of a job. So I will tell you, it is considerably smaller than its larger cousin, Isotria verticillata. Medeoloides, that epithet, comes from its shocking resemblance to Medeolia virginiana, which is growing in here in abundance. But no aroma on this. I took a whiff. Does not smell like its bigger cousin, Isotria verticillata. Just a real weirdo. He's so cryptic. So cryptic. I happen to think Malaxis bayardii, just based on the number of observations that get posted of these species respectively, is the more rare. Certainly has less, sites extant than this plant does. This plant, I mean, dozens of sites in New Hampshire alone. I think Malaxis bayardii has like maybe 12 to 16 globally. So as I was saying, sorry, I got distracted for a moment there. Malaxis bayardii has many fewer sites known globally, and this isn't. I mean, it's a smaller, more inconspicuous species, but not really by much. So, thank goodness, this is one of the plants up there with Potentia robinsiana. State of New Hampshire actually seems to give a hoot about. So they're clearly, doing the work to track the population. Very good work, and I'm not here to supersede that. I'm just trying to show you so that you're aware that this thing even exists. Okay, I'm gonna zip my lips, I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna leave as carefully as possible, and I'm going to, not spill the beans. But this is generally known to be a pretty robust site for the species. Let me just get in there for a second. This is a pain because the thing's small, and we are growing in near complete shade here. You see, there's the flower. So these are, just like Isotria verticillata, and just like Pogonia, which it shares a common name with members of the subfamily Vanilloideae. Unlike its bigger brother, or bigger cousin, it lacks the super dark and long sepals, but does still, have those characteristic Isotria sepals. Only 2 species of Isotria, both restricted to the eastern half of North America. This one, I think, might almost be this occurs in Ontario too. I think it has 1 or 2 sites in southern Ontario, but nearly endemic to the eastern U.S. I don't believe it makes it. No, you can see it go down the spine of Appalachia. There are quite a few, little subpopulations and pockets you can find. I know there's a big population right outside of DC that might be one of the larger, global populations. But 3 green sepals, one of which is kind of cattywampus. I know from working with its bigger cousin that what appears to be just one sort of top petal there. There's 2 petals up top, and then the labellum, not really very showy, but just that little white lip down there. Get some calli back in there. Who the hell knows what's even pollinating this thing? What's that regime? And a big part of its scarcity is its hyperdependence on mycorrhizal symbionts, which not unique. I mean, all orchids do that. Some to greater extent than others. Some just need it to get started, like Cypripede and McCall just needs that association to get started and germinate. This guy seemingly needs to have backup the entire way, so to speak. So, I mean, not really much else to write home about for the morphology of it. Obviously, still has that really unique whorl of leaves, just a stem emerging from a rhizome, puts out a whorl of leaves, and sends out its little flower, does its thing. This one looks pretty fresh, so the ovary is not really
swollen or anything, but that's the ovary just behind the flower, inferior ovary, no aroma. It's in every way, it's almost less remarkable than Isotria verticillata, but it is much more remarkable just for the rarity of this thing. I'm just happy that people are actually putting the effort in to go into preserving this. There's numerous sub-sites around here. I don't want to let on more than I feel comfortable with, but I mean, again, if you're going to find this thing, New Hampshire is a good place to come find it. It's an acid-loving orchid. I'll talk a little bit about the forest makeup around, and then we'll get out of here, because I mean, this is public land. You know, I don't want to be stinking up the place. Just my obnoxious self, and I'll leave these guys be. You know, you come, you see it, take a little video, take your pictures, and then get the hell out. You know, don't disturb the area, don't blow up the spot, yada yada yada. Nobody gave me this. If you're watching this and you think you know somebody that might have tipped me off to where I can find this thing, don't worry. No individual person actually gave me any information regarding this, and I've asked and I've been told no. There's a couple of spots where they publicly advertise that it's there, though I suspect the trails in those areas do not actually. I've been to a few of those spots. I've never seen it in any of those spots. This is the first time I've actually seen it. So that's Isotria medeoloides, the hide-and-seek expert. I mean, Isotria verticillata can be kind of elusive too, but I mean, when you see them, they're usually present in abundance, and they're going off. There's maybe a few dozen scattered around here. This is the only one I've seen blooming, so I want to show you how closely this thing resembles Medeolia virginiana, for which it owes its species epithet to. And then we'll just talk a little bit about, you know, the habitat that this enjoys. That's about it. Yeah, okay, you can see here, there's one of the markers they have. There's the begonia. That's Medeolia virginiana. I mean, at this point, I can kind of readily tell these because I've spent so long kind of hunting for isotrias and just looking constantly, cucumber root after cucumber root after cucumber root, stumbling across these. So, I mean, come on, that's a pretty good species epithet. Obviously, this is a lily. None of these are blooming, weirdly enough. They're blooming down in Massachusetts, but they're not blooming here. Sends up it's really easy to tell the difference when they're actually in flower. They don't really resemble each other much at all in that regard. But yeah. So is it raining or is it windy? I can't tell. Poke around here for another second. I'll give you a little tidbit about, you know, habitat, what these things tend to do. But you can see there were 3 marked here. Only one of them came up and it's not blooming. I still haven't seen any others in bloom besides that one. Okay, well, I found a good spot to kind of pull over, and I can explain to you kind of the habitat these things enjoy. So this is not an orchid that's growing pure, undisturbed, virgin forest. In fact, that seems to really work against this species. This entire area through here was cut at one point, or at least thinned back. You can tell that based on what's growing here and the size of the trees. Beech, mostly hardwood, mostly beech trees. Fagus grandifolia, which you got right in front of us. You've got, you know, Betula lenta, your sweet birch. Some hemlock, but not much. And then just this very clear understory, surprising for something that could be considered, you know, a successional type of woodland, but not unheard of. So this species just tends to really like it acidic, rocky, and disturbed, but not immediately disturbed. We're talking about a species that is going to come in and seemingly start occupying a late successional woodland. I don't know what you would term it. But efforts to really kind of, how do I want to say this, promote its spread or introduce it into other areas have been almost universally unsuccessful. Thinning the canopy doesn't seem to help it, and then also letting the canopy grow back in, like to a complete, like at this point in spring, I'm out of the actual population right now, but at this point in spring, because yes, it's early June, but it's still spring, you would expect to see quite a bit of, you know, growth on the forest floor. but there's not, because this is pretty shady at this time of year. So it's striking this balance where you have a seeming lack of ephemerals, you get some ferns and stuff, a pretty open forest floor, but a deciduous canopy. I'm trying to do the math here. It needs some very specific requirements. Where I've seen Isotria verticillata, however, was, you know, mostly just regular oak and pine woodland. It does not seem to be nearly as finicky in its preferred habitat. So your guess is as good as mine as to what the secret sauce that this thing likes is, but kind of rocky, definitely acidic, clear forest floor, but a deciduous canopy. Sounds okay, simple enough. It's surprisingly infrequent to get that. I mean, you look over there, like you can see how clear and open some of these patches are. You're not going to get that in like a conifer, like a mixed conifer forest. Oak and pine forest, you know, shady hemlock forest stays shady year round. This is pretty open in the winter, I'm guessing, and judging from the fact that there's not really a lot of undergrowth. I mean, I'm standing on a rock wall right now. I can tell you for a fact this was probably completely clear cut, you know, 100 years ago, 200 years ago. This is not the quote unquote indigenous forest of New England. This is a relatively young woodland here, and probably one that's undergone recent maintenance. I mean, I could tell that because they're working through here, but this is the type of stuff that, you know, when you get really into the weeds with it, when people talk about, oh, why can't you just move it? Why can't you just move it? This is what they're talking about. You can't move this plant. You can't grow this plant from scratch. It's not going to work. The fungal associations, the specific habitat requirements, whatever regime of overturning this forest goes through, you're not going to replicate that in like a garden. You're just not. So, not really much else to show you in here, to be blunt. It's just some beech trees, some hemlock, a handful of hemlocks, what appears to be the odd maple or two, and that's about it. I mean, I'll go poke around one more second, and then we'll probably honestly just get out of here. But oh, there's squirrels running around. That's cute. But I hope you enjoyed this. This is kind of one on par with the Malaxis bayardii episode, where I mean, there's no greater. This isn't something you're gonna come out and go find. I'm sorry. I just, you know, you got to be careful who you share this stuff with. Just know that if you think, I've figured it out myself with this time around. I really did. So anyway, go see what's going on. Go check on maybe one or two other things, and we'll call it a day, honestly. Yeah, I come over here where it looks like it's been almost raked. This is a stand of hemlocks above us, and I did manage to find this double flowering one that popped up. I think this one, judging by that ovary, oh no, this just popped out, but that's a twofer right there. Oh my God. I'm asking you the same question I want to ask Claytonia virginica. What makes you so much rarer than your close cousin? I don't understand it. That's like a once-in-a-lifetime shot right there, though. A double-headed. I've seen the double-headed Isotria verticillata was freaking everywhere. Also, I don't think that these co-occur very frequently. Or Isotria verticillata and Isotria medeoloides. But, god damn, that's a lifer for me. And I will most likely never come back here again. Go try and find it someplace else. I know there's, like I said, if you're going to find this plant, New Hampshire's a damn good place to come find it. What a... just... God, there's people don't even know or care about this shit half the time. The mysteries that surround you are insane. Just get out there, go look, do the research, figure it out, come see it, talk to people. You know, talk to people from the state. Half the time they'd be happy to show you stuff like this, but probably wouldn't want my obnoxious ass yapping and filming a video while they're trying to do good work, you know. Anyway, in any case, just, you know, thank God people are out here doing conservation, and that, you know, this is something that we still have, because this could so easily be lost, you know, forever. It doesn't, we don't know enough to really move it or say that it's going to be fine someplace else. We just don't know. So that's pretty much my my spiel for today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, because It's a pretty special one for me. Take it easy.